You've worked so hard today. The day just flew by, didn't it? Now take a moment to pause and let everything go. Tonight, we'll read the entire book of Judges together. Listen slowly, comfortably. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, "Who of us is to go up first to fight against the Canaanites?" The Lord answered, "Judah shall go up, I have given the land into their hands." Then Judah said to his brother Simeon, "Come up with me into the territory allotted to me to fight the Canaanites. I in turn will go with you into yours." So Simeon went with him. When Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. They found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek and fought against him, capturing him. Then Adoni-Bezek fled, but they chased him and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Adoni-Bezek said, "70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to pick up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them." They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. The men of Judah attacked Jerusalem also and captured it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, the men of Judah went down to fight the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev and the western foothills. They advanced against the Canaanites living in Hebron, formerly called Kiriath Arba, and defeated Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. From there they advanced against the people of Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sepher. And Caleb said, "I will give my daughter Aksa in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sepher." Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, captured it, so Caleb gave his daughter Aksa to him in marriage. One day when she came to Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you want?" She answered, "Give me a special blessing. Since you have given me land in the Negev, give me also springs of water." So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. The descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenite, went up from the city of palms with the people of Judah to live among the people of the desert of Judah in the Negev near Arad. Then Judah went with his brother Simeon and attacked the Canaanites living in Zephath, and they totally destroyed the city. Therefore it was called Hormah. Judah also took Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, each with its territory. The Lord was with Judah, so that he took possession of the hill country. But he was unable to drive the people from the plains because they had chariots fitted with iron. As Moses had promised, Hebron was given to Caleb, who drove from it the 3 sons of Anak. The Benjamites, however, did not drive out the Jebusites, who were living in Jerusalem to this day. The Jebusites lived there with the Benjamites. The tribe of Joseph attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with them. The house of Joseph sent spies to Bethel, formerly called Luz. When the spies saw a man leaving the city, they said to him, "Please show us how to get into the city, and we will show you kindness." So he showed them how to get in, and they put the city to the sword, but spared the man and his whole family. He then went to the land of the Hittites, where he built a city and named it Luz, which is its name to this day. But Manasseh did not drive out the people of Beth-shan or Tanach, or Dor, or Ibleam, or Megiddo and their surrounding settlements, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that land. When Israel became strong, They pressed the Canaanites into forced labor but never drove them out completely. Nor did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, but the Canaanites continued to live there among them. Neither did Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahalol, but the Canaanites lived among them, becoming subject to forced labor. Nor did Asher drive out those living in Akko or Sidon or Ahlab or Akzib or Helba or Aphik or Rehob. The Asherites lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land because they did not drive them out. Nor did Naphtali drive out those living in Beth Shemesh or Beth Anath, but the Naphtalites lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land. And the people of Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath became forced laborers for them. The Danites were confined to the hill country by the Amorites, who would not allow them to come down to the plain. And the Amorites were determined to live in Mount Heres, Ajalon, and Shalbim. But the power of the house of Joseph increased, and they were pressed into forced labor. The boundary of the Amorites was from Scorpion Pass to Selah and beyond. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a treaty with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud. So they called that place Bochim, and there they offered sacrifices to the Lord. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they all went to their own inheritance to take possession of the land. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance, at Timnath Heres in the hill country of Ephraim north of Mount Gaash. After that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt, and followed other gods, the gods of the peoples around them, and bowed down to them. They aroused the Lord's anger. They forsook the Lord and served Baal and the Ashtoreths. In his anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of raiders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges, who saved them out of the hands of these raiders. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshipped them. They quickly turned from the ways of their ancestors, who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies. As long as the judge lived, for the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, The people reverted to ways even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, "Because this nation has violated the covenant I made with their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use these nations to test Israel and see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did." The Lord had left those nations, he had not driven them out at once or given them into the hands of Joshua. These are the nations the Lord left to test all those Israelites who had not experienced any of the wars in Canaan. He did this only to teach warfare to the descendants of the Israelites who had not had previous battle experience. The 5 rulers of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, and the Hivites living in the Lebanon mountains from Mount Baal Hermon to Labo Hamath. They were left to test the Israelites to see whether they would obey the Lord's commands, which he had given their ancestors through Moses. The Israelites lived among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They took their daughters in marriage and gave their own daughters to their sons and served their gods. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Asherahs. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel so that he sold them into the hands of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Aram Naharaim. And the Israelites served Cushan-Rishathaim 8 years. But when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up for them a deliverer, Othniel son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, who saved them. The Spirit of the Lord came on him, so that he became Israel's judge and went to war. The Lord gave Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overthrew him. So the land had peace for 40 years, until Othniel son of Kenaz died. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And because of this evil, the Lord gave Eglon, king of Moab, power over Israel, getting the Ammonites and Amalekites to join him. Eglon came and attacked Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. The Israelites served Eglon, king of Moab, 18 years. Again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer, Ehud son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. The Israelites sent him with tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Ehud had made a double-edged sword about a cubit long, which he strapped to his right thigh under his clothing. He presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab, who was a very fat man. After Ehud had presented the tribute, he sent on their way those who had carried it. But Ehud himself turned back at the idols near Gilgal and said, "I have a secret message for you, your majesty." The king said, "Quiet," and all his attendants left his presence. Ehud went to him, and the king was sitting alone in the cool upper room of his palace. Ehud said, "I have a message from God for you." As the king rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into the king's belly. Even the handle sank in after the blade, and Ehud did not pull the sword out, so the fat closed in over it. Then Ehud went out to the porch. He shut the doors of the upper room behind him and locked them. After Ehud had left, the king's attendants came in and found the doors of the upper room locked. They said, He must be relieving himself in the inner room of the palace. They waited to the point of embarrassment. But when he did not open the doors of the upper room, they took a key and opened them. There they saw their Lord fallen to the floor, dead. While they waited, Ehud got away. He passed the idols and escaped to Sarah. When he arrived there, he blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went down with him from the hills, with him leading them. "Follow me," Ehud ordered, "for the Lord has given Moab, your enemy, into your hands." So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan leading to Moab, allowing no one to cross over. At that time, they struck down about 10,000 Moabites, all vigorous, valiant men, not one escaped. That day Moab was made subject to Israel, and the land had peace for 80 years. After Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel. Again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord now that Ehud was dead. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. Sisera, the commander of his army, lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Because he had 900 iron chariots and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried to the Lord for help. At that time Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak son of Abinoam from Kadesh in Naphtali and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give him into your hands." Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." "Certainly I will go with you," said Deborah. "But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the oak of Zaanannim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak son of Abinoam had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned all his chariots, 900 of them fitted with iron, and all the men with him, from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword, not a man was left. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between Jabin king of Hazor and the clan of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come in, my lord, come in here. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she put a covering over him. "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and then covered him up again. "Stand in the doorway of the tent," he told her. "If anyone comes by and asks you, 'Is anyone here?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Just then Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera dead, with the peg through his temple. On that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder on Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang this song: "When the princes in Israel take the lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, praise the Lord. Hear this, you kings. Listen, you rulers. Yes, I will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord, the God of Israel. Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, the earth shook, the heavens poured, the clouds poured down water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways where abandoned travelers took to winding paths. Village life in Israel ceased until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel. When they chose new gods, war came to the city gates, but not a shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with Israel's princes, with those among the people who willingly offered themselves, praise the Lord. You who ride on white donkeys, sitting on your saddle blankets, and you who walk along the road, consider the voice of the singers at the watering places. They recite the victorious acts of the Lord, the victorious acts of his villagers in Israel. Then the people of the Lord went down to the city gates. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, break out in song. Arise, Barak. Take your captives, son of Abinoam. Then the survivors came down to the nobles. The people of the Lord came to me with the mighty. Some came from Ephraim, whose roots were in Amalek. Benjamin was with the people who followed you. From Machir commanders came down, from Zebulun, those who wield the marshal's staff. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah, yes. Issachar was with Barak, and they rushed into the valley under his command. In the districts of Reuben there was much searching of heart. Why did you stay among the campfires to hear the whistling for the flocks? In the districts of Reuben there was much searching of heart. Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan. And Dan, why did he linger by the ships? Asher remained on the seashore and stayed in his coves. The people of Zebulun risked their lives unto death, so did Naphtali on the heights of the field. Kings came, they fought. The kings of Canaan fought at Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo, but they carried off no silver, no plunder. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away, the ancient river, the river Kishon. March on, my soul, be strong. Then the horses' hooves hammered, galloping, galloping go his mighty steeds. Curse Meroz, said the angel of the Lord. Curse its people bitterly. because they did not come to help the Lord against the mighty. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Most blessed of tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, and she gave him milk in a bowl fit for nobles. She brought him curdled milk. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, he fell there he lay. At her feet he sank, he fell where he sank, there he fell dead. Out of the window peered Sisera's mother. Through the lattice cried out, "Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed?" Her wisest ladies answer her. Indeed, she keeps answering herself. Are they not finding and dividing the spoils a woman or two for each man? Colorful garments as plunder for Sisera? Colorful garments embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck, all this as plunder? So may all your enemies perish, Lord. But may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had peace 40 years.
In a land once promised, yet slowly forgotten, the people walked with trembling hearts. Cities stood tall like fear itself, and courage felt smaller than the walls. They cried out in the night, unsure if hope still heard their names. Yet the Lord remained steady as dawn after endless shadows. He saw their weakness and did not turn away his face. Love stayed longer than their doubt. When strength was gone and voices failed, heaven leaned close to hear their prayer. The Lord raises the weak with his faithful hand. He fights for hearts that can barely stand. Even when we fall, his love does not depart. God has always loved you from the start. Deborah rose with fire and truth upon her tongue. A song of justice filled the silent land. Fear gave way to praise. Barak walked where courage was born from trust. Not by sword alone, but by faith awakened. Victory came through obedience. Stars themselves seemed to fight for hope. The river carried fear away. Love proved stronger than the night. The Lord raises the weak
Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza, and did not leave a sheep, an ox, or a donkey for Israel to eat. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them or their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says: I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me." The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites together." Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back to you and bring my offering and set it before you." And the Lord said, "I will wait until you return." Gideon went in and prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he made bread without yeast. Putting the meat in a basket and its broth in a pot, he brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread and place them on this rock, and pour out the broth." And Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it "The Lord is Peace." To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. That same night the Lord said to him, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper altar to the Lord your God on the top of this stronghold. Take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime. In the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished, and the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, "Who did this?" When they carefully investigated, they were told, "Gideon, son of Joash, did it." The people of the town said to Joash, "Bring out your son. He must die, because he has demolished Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it." But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, "Are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar." So because Gideon demolished Baal's altar, they gave him the name Jerubbaal that day, saying, "Let Baal contend with him." All the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Abiezrites to follow him. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also throughout Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, so that they too came up to meet them. Then Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said." And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next morning. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out enough dew to fill a bowl with water. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not be angry with me. Let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece, but this time let the fleece be dry and all the ground be covered with dew." That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry, all the ground was covered with dew. Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon and all his men rose early and camped at the spring of Harod. The Midianite camp was to their north in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men for me to deliver Midian into their hands. In order that Israel may not boast against me that her own strength has saved her, announce now to the people, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. But the Lord said to Gideon, "There are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say, 'This one shall go with you,' he shall go. But if I say, 'This one shall not go with you,' he shall not go." So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel down to drink." 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, "With the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home." So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300, who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of Midian was in the valley below Gideon. During that night the Lord said to Gideon, "Get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah, and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp." So he and Purah his servant went down to the outposts of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern peoples had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling his friend a dream. "I had a dream," he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, "This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon son of Joash, an Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands." When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down in worship. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, "Get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands." Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them, with torches inside. "Watch me," he told them. "Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp blow yours and shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after they had changed the guards. Then they blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew their trumpets and smashed their jars. Grasping the torches in their left hands and holding the trumpets in their right hands to blow them, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth-shittah toward Zererah as far as the border of Abel-Meholah near Tabbath. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down to attack the Midianites and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth-barah." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they seized the waters of the Jordan as far as Beth-barah. They also captured Oreb and Zeeb, the 2 Midianite princes. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeeb at the winepress of Zeeb. They pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan. Now the Ephraimites asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us like this? Why didn't you call us when you went to fight Midian?" And they challenged him strenuously. Gideon replied, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Are not the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than the full harvest of Abiezer? God gave Oreb and Zeeb, the Midianite princes, into your hands. What was I able to do compared to you?" When he said this, their anger against him subsided. Gideon and his 300 men crossed the Jordan, exhausted yet still in pursuit. He said to the men of Sukkoth, "Give my troops some bread, they are worn out, and I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the Midianite kings." But the officials of Succoth said, "Do you already have Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your army?" Then Gideon said, "Just for that. When the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars." From there he went up to Peniel and made the same request of them. But the people of Peniel answered as the men of Succoth had. So Gideon said to the men of Peniel, "When I return in triumph, I will tear down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army of about 15,000 men. All that were left of the armies of the eastern peoples, 120,000 swordsmen, had fallen. Gideon went up by the route of the nomads east of Nobah and Jogbehah and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, but he pursued them and captured the 2 Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna, and routed their whole army. Gideon, son of Joash, then returned from the battle by the pass of Heres. He caught a young man of Succoth and questioned him, and the young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 officials of Succoth, their elders. Then Gideon came to the men of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me. Do you already have Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men?" He took the elders of the town and taught the men of Succoth a lesson by punishing them with desert thorns and briars. He also tore down the tower of Peniel and killed the men of the town. Then he asked Zebah and Zalmunna, "What kind of men were they whom you killed at Tabor?" "Like you," they answered. Each one had the appearance of a king's son. Gideon replied, "Those were my brothers, the sons of my own mother. As surely as the Lord lives, if you had spared their lives, I would not kill you." Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, "Kill them." But Jether did not draw his sword because he was only a boy and was afraid. Zebah and Zalmunna said, "Come, strike us yourself. As is the man, so is his strength." So Gideon stepped forward and killed Zebah and Zalmunna and took the ornaments of the camels' necks. The Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us you, your son and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian." But Gideon told them, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." And Gideon said to them, "I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder." It happened that the enemy had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. They answered, "We'll be glad to give them." So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw an earring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold earrings was 1,700 shekels, not including the ornaments. Pendants and purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his town. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace 40 years. Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went home and remained there. He had 70 sons by his many wives, and his concubine in Shechem also had a son whom he named Abimelech. Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. They made Baal-berith their god and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They also failed to show kindness to the family of Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, for all the good things he had done for Israel. Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them and to all his mother's clan, "Ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I am your flesh and blood." When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, their hearts were swayed to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He is our fellow Israelite." They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech hired some worthless and reckless men who followed him. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, Jerubbaal's youngest son, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at Shechem to crown Abimelech king. When Jotham was told about this, he climbed up on the top of Mount Gerizim and shouted to them, "Listen to me, citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you." One day the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, "Be our king." But the olive tree answered, "Should I give up my oil by which both gods and humans are honored to hold sway over the trees?" Next the trees said to the fig tree, "Come and be our king." But the fig tree replied, "Should I give up my fruit so good and sweet to hold sway over the trees?" Then the trees said to the grapevine, "Come and be our king." But the grapevine answered, "Should I give up my wine, which cheers both gods and humans, to hold sway over the trees?" Finally all the trees said to the thorn bush, "Come and be our king." The thorn bush said to the trees, "If you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Have you acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech king? Have you dealt well with Jerubbaal and his family? Have you treated him as he deserved? Remember that my father fought for you and risked his life to rescue you from the hand of Midian. But today you have revolted against my father's family, murdered his 70 sons on one stone, and made Abimelech, the son of his female servant, king over the citizens of Shechem, because he is your fellow Israelite. So if you have acted honorably and in good faith toward Jerubbaal and his family today, then may Abimelech be your joy, and may you in turn be his joy. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and consume Abimelech." Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer, where he lived in exile because of his brother Abimelech. After Abimelech had governed Israel for 3 years, God stirred up animosity between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem, who acted treacherously against Abimelech. God did this in order that the crime against Jerubbaal's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, might be avenged on their brother Abimelech and on the citizens of Shechem, who had helped him murder his brothers. The citizens of Shechem set ambushes for him on the mountaintops and robbed all who passed by on the road. And Abimelech was told about it. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, moved into Shechem with his relatives, and the citizens of Shechem put their confidence in him. After they had gone out into the fields and harvested their grapes and trodden them, they held a festival in the temple of their God. While they were eating and drinking, they cursed Abimelech. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and why should we Shechemites be subject to him? Isn't he Jerubbaal's son, and isn't Zebul his deputy? Serve the men of Hamor, Shechem's father. Why should we serve Abimelech? If only this people were under my command. Then I would get rid of Abimelech. I would say to Abimelech, 'Call out your whole army.'" When Zebul, the governor of the city, heard what Gaal, son of Ebed, said, he was very angry. He secretly sent messengers to Abimelech, saying, "Gaal, son of Ebed, and his relatives have come to Shechem and are stirring up the city against you. Now then, act at night with your men and ambush the fields. In the morning, at sunrise, advance against the city. When Gaal and his men come out against you, do to them whatever your hand finds to do." So Abimelech and all his troops set out at night and ambushed Shechem in 4 companies. When Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate, Abimelech and his troops rose from ambush. Gaal saw the troops and said to Zebul, "Look, troops are coming down from the tops of the mountains." But Zebul replied, "You're seeing the shadows of the mountains as if they were men." But Gaal spoke again, "Look, troops are coming down from the center of the land, and a company is coming by way of the diviner's oak." Then Zebul said to him, "Where is your boasting now? You who said, 'Who is Abimelech that we should be subject to him?' Aren't these the men you ridiculed? Go out and fight them." So Gaal led out the citizens of Shechem and fought Abimelech. But Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. Many fell wounded all the way to the entrance of the city gate. Abimelech stayed in Arumah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his relatives out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out to the fields, and Abimelech was told about it. So he took his men, divided them into 3 companies, and set an ambush in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose to attack them. Abimelech and the companies with him rushed forward and took up positions at the entrance of the city gate. Then the other 2 companies rushed upon all who were in the fields and struck them down. All that day Abimelech fought the city. He captured it, killed its people, and demolished the city, sowing salt in it. On hearing this, the citizens in the tower of Shechem went into the stronghold of the temple of El-Berith. When Abimelech heard that all the citizens in the tower of Shechem had assembled there, he and all his troops went up Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and cut off some branches, which he loaded on his shoulders. He ordered the men with him, "Quick, see what I have just done? Do the same." So all the men cut off branches and followed Abimelech. They piled them against the stronghold and set it on fire with the people inside. So all the people in the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Next, Abimelech went to Thebez and camped against it and captured it. But there was a strong tower inside the city, and all the men and women, all the people of the city fled to it. They locked themselves in and climbed up on the roof. Abimelech went to the tower and attacked it. He went near the entrance of the tower to set it on fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on his head and cracked his skull. Dismayed, he quickly called to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me so that people can't say, 'A woman killed him.'" So his young man thrust him through, and he died. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they all went home. Thus God repaid Abimelech for the evil he had done to his father in murdering his 70 brothers. God also made the men of Shechem pay for all their wickedness. The curse of Jotham son of Jerubbaal came on them. After the time of Abimelech, a man of Issachar named Tola son of Puah, the son of Dodo, rose to save Israel. He lived in Shamir, in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel 23 years, then he died and was buried in Shamir. After him, Jair the Gileadite arose and judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons, who rode on 30 donkeys and who owned 30 towns in Gilead, which are called Havoth Jair to this day. When Jair died, he was buried in Kaman. Again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. They served the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and the gods of Aram, Sidon, Moab, Ammon, and Philistia. And because they forsook the Lord and served not him, the Lord became angry with them and sold them into the hands of the Philistines and the Ammonites. For 18 years they oppressed all the Israelites on the east side of the Jordan in Gilead, the land of the Amorites. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and Ephraim, so Israel was in great distress. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, "We have sinned against you, for we have forsaken our God and have served the Baals." The Lord replied, "When the Egyptians, the Amorites, the Ammonites, the Philistines, the Sidonians, the Amalekites, and the Maonites oppressed you, and you cried to me for help, did I not save you from their hands? But you have forsaken me and served other gods, so I will no longer save you. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them save you when you are in trouble." But the Israelites said to the Lord, "We have sinned. Do with us whatever you think best, but please rescue us today." Then they got rid of the foreign gods among them and served the Lord, and he could bear Israel's misery no longer. When the Ammonites called out their forces and camped in Gilead, the Israelites assembled and camped at Mizpah. The Israelite leaders and all the people of Gilead asked each other, "Who is the man who will begin the battle against the Ammonites? He will be head over all who live in Gilead."
We've seen the valleys and the victory. Watch your hand shape every turn. Through the years you never left us, still our hearts have much to learn. You spoke again with gentle strength, calling us to choose your way, not just in triumph or in peace, but in every ordinary day. You are faithful until the end. Your love does not grow weak with time. From first breath to final song, your Your promise stands, your heart is kind. We remember all the battles won, not by swords but by your truth. Every blessing quietly given, every mercy made brand new. You ask our hearts to answer you, not with fear but with trust, because love has always been the reason that you walk with us. Even when our voices fail, your covenant still holds us close. You are faithful until the end. No shadow turns your loving face. Forever God, forever near, we rest inside your grace.
Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty warrior. His father was Gilead, his mother was a prostitute. Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they were grown up, they drove Jephthah out and said, "You are not going to get any inheritance in our family because you are the son of a foreign woman." So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where a gang of scoundrels gathered around him and went out raiding with him. Sometime later, when the Ammonites made war on Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. "Come," they said, "be our commander so we can fight the Ammonites." Jephthah said to them, "Didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble?" The elders of Gilead said to him, "Nevertheless, we are turning to you. Now come with us to fight the Ammonites, and you will be our head over all who live in Gilead." Jephthah answered, "If you take me back to fight the Ammonites and the Lord gives them to me, will I really be your head?" The elders of Gilead replied, "The Lord is our witness, we will certainly do as you say." So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And Jephthah repeated all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king with this question, "What do you have against me that you have attacked my country?" The Ammonite king replied through his messengers, "When Israel came up out of Egypt, they took away my land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and as far as the Jordan. Now give it back peaceably." Jephthah again sent messengers to the Ammonite king, saying, "This is what Jephthah says, Israel did not take the land of Moab or the land of the Ammonites. But when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and on to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, 'Allow us to pass through your country.' But the king of Edom would not permit it. They even sent to the king of Moab, but he refused. So Israel stayed at Kadesh. Then they traveled through the wilderness. skirted the lands of Edom and Moab, passed along the eastern side of Moab, and camped on the other side of the Arnon. They did not enter Moabite territory because the Arnon was its border. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon, and said to him, "Let us pass through your country to our own place." But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. He mustered all his troops and encamped at Jahaz and fought with Israel. Then the Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his army into Israel's hands, and they defeated them. Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites, who lived in that country. It took possession of all the territory from the Arnon to the Jabbok and from the desert to the Jordan. Now since the Lord, the God of Israel, has driven the Amorites out before his people Israel, what right have you to take it over? Will you not take what your god Chemosh gives you? Likewise, whatever the Lord our God has given us, we will possess. Are you any better than Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever quarrel with Israel or fight with them? For 300 years, Israel occupied Heshbon, Aroer, and its surrounding settlements, and all the towns along the Arnon. Why didn't you retake them during that time? I have not wronged you, but you are doing me wrong by waging war against me. Let the Lord, the judge, decide this dispute today between the Israelites and the Ammonites. The king of Ammon, however, paid no attention to the message Jephthah sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He defeated them all the way from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, 20 towns, and as far as Abel-keramim. Thus the Ammonites were subdued before the Israelites. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing. She was his only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me down and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." She said to him, "My father, you have made a vow to the Lord. Do to me whatever you promised. Now that the Lord has avenged you by giving you victory over your enemies, the Ammonites." Then she said to her father, "Allow me this one thing. Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said, and he let her go for 2 months. She and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed. And she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite custom, that each year the Israelite women go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. The Ephraimites mobilized and crossed over to Zaphon and said to Jephthah, "Why did you go to fight the Ammonites without calling us to go with you? We're going to burn down your house over your head." Jephthah replied, "I and my people were engaged in a great struggle with the Ammonites, and although I called, You did not save me out of their hands. When I saw that you wouldn't help, I took my life in my hands and crossed over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into my hands. So why have you come to fight me today?" Jephthah then gathered all the men of Gilead and fought against Ephraim. The Gileadites struck them down because the Ephraimites had said, "You Gileadites are fugitives from Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan ahead of the Ephraimites. Whenever an Ephraimite fugitive said, "Let me cross over," the Gileadites asked him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he replied, "No," they said, "All right, say Shibboleth." If he said Sibboleth because he could not pronounce the word correctly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at that time. Jephthah led Israel for 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died and was buried in a town in Gilead. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem led Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He gave his daughters in marriage outside his clan and brought in 30 young women from outside his clan for his sons. Ibzan led Israel for 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried in Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite led Israel for 10 years. Then Elon died and was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon son of Hillel from Pirathon led Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 donkeys. He led Israel for 8 years. Then Abdon son of Hillel died and was buried at Pirathon in Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. A certain man of Zorah, named Manoah, from the clan of the Danites, had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from birth. He will begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Then the woman went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazirite of God from the womb until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to send the man of God you sent earlier to us again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born.' God heard Manoah's prayer, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, 'He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day.' Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he asked him, 'Are you the man who spoke to this woman?' 'I am,' he said. So Manoah said, 'When your words come true, what is to be the child's manner of life and his mission?' The angel of the Lord answered, 'The woman must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her." Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "We would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you." The angel of the Lord replied, "Even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you want to prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord." Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, "What is your name? So that with honor we may present a gift to you when your words come true." He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Then Manoah took a young goat and a grain offering and offered them on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. In awe, Manoah and his wife fell face down on the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to his wife, "We are doomed to die. We have seen God." But his wife answered him, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things or now told us this." The woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew and the Lord blessed him. The Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahane-Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His father and mother replied, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?" But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. In it was a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for bridegrooms. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. "Let me tell you a riddle," Samson said to them. "If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you cannot tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." "Tell us your riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." He replied, "Out of the eater, something to eat out of the strong, something sweet." For 3 days they could not give the answer. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, Coax your husband into telling us the riddle, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our possessions?" Then Samson's wife threw herself on him weeping and said, "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." "I haven't even told my father or mother," he said. "So why should I tell you?" She kept him company throughout the 7 days of the feast. But on the 7th day, because she tormented him continually, he told her the answer, and she in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town came to him and said, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson replied, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of their belongings, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he went up to his father's home, and Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had been his best man. Later, during wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, "I'm going to my wife's room." But her father would not let him go in. "I was so sure you hated her," he said, "that I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead." Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will do them real damage." So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing corn of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and standing corn, together with the vineyards and olive groves. When the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" they were told, "Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion." So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Samson said to them, "Since you've acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The men of Judah asked, "Why have you come up to fight us?" "We have come to take Samson prisoner," they answered, "to do to him what he did to us." Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, "Don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us?" He answered, "I merely did to them what they did to me." They said to him, "We've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." Samson said, "Swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves." "Agreed," they answered. "We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With a donkey's jawbone I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone I have killed 1,000 men." When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone and called that place Ramath Lehi. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of these uncircumcised Philistines?" Then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned and he revived. So the spring was called En-Hakkore, and it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines.
I walked a road built from broken promises and whispered fears. I spoke brave words, yet my heart was trembling inside. I tried to bargain with heaven when I should have trusted love. Still you listened when my voice was small and unsure. I carried vows heavier than my own strength could bear. Choices made in fire, not knowing the cost ahead. Even when regret followed every step I took, you stay closer than my shadow in the dust. You see the the battle begins. You know my weakness, and still you call my name. When love still calls me in my darkest hour, I hear your mercy louder than my fear. You never turn away from fragile hearts. God, you have always loved me. I fell against strong hands tied by desire, blinded by the things I could not release. Yet even then your purpose did not fade. You turned my failure into part of your plan. Not by my power, not by my prayer, but by patient and faithful love. When love still calls me through every fall, I rise again, because you hold my soul from beginning to end. Your voice remains. God, you have always loved me.
One day Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the 2 posts, and tore them loose. bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength, and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." Then the Philistine rulers brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the bowstrings as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Until now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied." He replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with the pin. Again she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Then she said to him, "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the Philistine rulers, "Come back one more time. He has told me everything." So the Philistine rulers came up to her with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. And his strength left him. Then she called, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and thought, "I'll go out as before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze shackles and set him to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the Philistine rulers gathered to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson our enemy into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain." While they were in high spirits, they shouted, "Bring out Samson to entertain us." So they called Samson from the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean against them." Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just one more time, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived. Then his brothers and his whole family went down to get him. They brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father. He had led Israel for 20 years. Now there was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which you uttered a curse in my hearing, I have that silver with me. I took it." Then his mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son." When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I solemnly dedicate my silver to the Lord for my son to make an image overlaid with silver." So when he returned the silver to his mother, she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith, who made them into an image overlaid with silver, and it was in Micah's house. Now this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some household gods and installed one of his sons as his priest. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who was a sojourner there, left that town in Judah to find another place to live. He came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. Micah asked him, "Where are you from?" "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he replied, "and I'm looking for a place to live." Then Micah said to him, "Stay with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes and your food." So the Levite agreed to stay with him. And the Levite was pleased to stay with the man as if he were one of Micah's sons. So Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in his house. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." In those days Israel had no king, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking a place of their own, where they might settle, because they had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent 5 of their able men from Zorah and Eshtaol to spy out the land and explore it. These men said to them, "Go, explore the land." So they entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah and spent the night there. When they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What makes you stay here?" He told them what Micah had done for him and said, "He hired me, and I am his priest." Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful." The priest answered them, "Go in peace. Your journey has the Lord's approval." So the 5 men left and came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living in security, like the Sidonians, carefree and unsuspecting. The land was rich, there was nothing lacking in it that is on the earth, and they were far from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone. When they returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their relatives asked them, "How did you find things?" They answered, "Come on, let's attack them. We have seen the land and it is very good. Aren't you going to do anything? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people and a spacious land that God has given you, a land that lacks nothing." Then 600 men of the Danite clan, all armed for battle, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. On their way, they camped at Kiriath-Jearim in Judah. This is why the place above Kiriath-Jearim is called Mahane Dan to this day. From there they went on to the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. The 5 men who had spied out the land of Laish said to their brothers, "Do you know that in these houses there is an ephod, some household gods, a carved image and a cast idol? Now you know what to do." So they turned in there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites, armed for battle, stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had spied out the land went inside and carried off the carved image, the ephod, the household gods and the cast idol, while the priest and the 600 armed men stood at the entrance of the gate. When these men went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods and the cast idol, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They answered him, "Be quiet, don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and priest. Isn't it better for you to be a priest to a tribe and clan in Israel than to just one man's household?" Then the priest was glad. He took the ephod, the household gods and the carved image, and went along with the people. Turning around, they set out with the little children, the livestock, and the valuables going on ahead. When they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. As they shouted after the Danites, the Danites turned around and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you come along with such a crowd?" He replied, "You took the gods I made and my priest and went off. What else do I have? How can you ask, 'What's the matter with you?'" The Danites answered, "Don't argue with us, or some of these men may get angry and attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." So the Danites went their way, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went home. Then the Danites took what Micah had made and his priest and went on to Laish against a people living peaceful and secure. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. The city was in the valley near Beth Rehob. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city's original name was Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land. They continued to use the idol Micah had made as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. In those days, Israel had no king. And in those days, there was a Levite living in the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But she was unfaithful to him and left him. She went back to her father's home in Bethlehem in Judah and stayed there for 4 months. Her husband went to her to persuade her to return. He took with him his servant and 2 donkeys. When he came to her father's house, the girl's father saw him and welcomed him gladly. His father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he stayed with him 3 days, eating and drinking and sleeping there. On the 4th day, he got up early in the morning to leave. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh yourself with some food before you go." So the 2 of them sat down and ate and drank together. Then the girl's father said to the man, "Please stay another night and enjoy yourself." And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law urged him, so he stayed there that night also. On the 5th day, he got up early in the morning to leave, and the girl's father said, "Refresh yourself and stay till the day declines." So the 2 of them ate. When the man and his concubine and his servant got up to leave, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said, "See, the day is drawing to a close. Spend the night here. The day is nearly over. Stay here and enjoy yourself. Early tomorrow morning you can get up and be on your way home." But the man was not willing to spend the night there. He got up and departed, and came to a place opposite Jebus, that is, Jerusalem. He had with him 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine. When they were near Jebus and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop at this Jebusite city and spend the night in it." His master replied, "No, we won't go into an alien city, one not belonging to the Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He added, "Come, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those towns." So they continued on their way, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. There they stopped to spend the night. They went and sat in the city square, but no one took them into their home for the night. That evening, an old man returning from his work in the field saw them. He was from the hill country of Ephraim, but had been living in Gibeah, whose people were Benjamites. The old man looked up and saw the traveler in the city square. "Where are you going?" he asked. "And where did you come from?" He answered, "We are traveling from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote hill country of Ephraim, where I live. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord, but no one has taken me into his house. We have straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for ourselves and your female servant and the young man with us. We don't lack anything." "You are welcome in my house," the old man said. "Let me supply all your needs. Just don't spend the night in the square." So he took him into his house and gave fodder to the donkeys. After they had washed their feet, they had something to eat and drink. While they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men of the city surrounded the house. Pounding on the door, they shouted to the old man who owned the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." The owner of the house went outside and said to them, "No, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing. Look, here's my virgin daughter and his concubine. Then all the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba, as well as from the land of Gilead, came out as one and assembled before the Lord in Mizpah. The leaders of all the people of Israel took their places in the assembly of God's people. 400,000 men on foot, armed with swords. The Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. Then the Israelites said, "Tell us how this awful thing happened." So the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, said, "I and my concubine came to Gibeah in Benjamin to spend the night. During the night, the men of Gibeah came and surrounded the house, intending to kill me. They abused my concubine so horribly that she died. I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent one piece to each of the 12 districts of Israel, because they committed this lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. Now all you Israelites, speak up and give your decision here." All the people rose as one and said, "None of us will go home. No, not one of us will return to his house. Instead, this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it as the lot directs. We will take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, 100 from every 1,000, and 1,000 from every 10,000, to get provisions for the army. Then, when the army arrives in Gibeah in Benjamin, they can serve her as she deserves for this outrageous act committed in Israel." So all the Israelites got together and united as one man against the city. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What about this evil that was committed among you? Now turn those wicked men of Gibeah over to us, so that we may put them to death and purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjamites would not listen to their fellow Israelites. From their towns they came together at Gibeah to fight the Israelites. At that time the Benjamites from their towns mustered 26,000 armed men, besides 700 select men from Gibeah. Among all these soldiers there were 700 select men who were left-handed, each of whom could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 armed men, all of them fighting men. The Israelites went up to Bethel and inquired of God. They said, "Who of us shall go first to fight against the Benjamites?" The Lord answered, "Judah shall go first." The next morning the Israelites got up and encamped against Gibeah. They marched out from Gibeah to fight the Benjamites and took up battle positions against them. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and slaughtered 22,000 Israelites on the battlefield that day. But the Israelites encouraged one another and again took up battle positions in the same place where they had arrayed themselves the first day. The Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until evening. They inquired of the Lord, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjamites, our fellow Israelites?" The Lord answered, "Go up against them." Then the Israelites drew near to the Benjamites the second day. This time, on the second day, the Benjamites came out from Gibeah to meet them and slaughtered another 18,000 Israelites, all of them armed with swords. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went up to Bethel, and there they sat weeping before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening, and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. The Israelites inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, ministered before it. They asked, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjamites, our fellow Israelites, or not?" The Lord responded, "Go, for tomorrow I will give them into your hands." Then Israel set an ambush all around Gibeah. They went up against the Benjamites on the third day and took up battle positions against Gibeah as they had done before. But the Benjamites came out to meet them and were drawn away from the city. They began to inflict casualties on the Israelites as before, killing about 30 men on the roads, the one leading to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, and in the open country. The Benjamites thought, "They are fleeing from us as at the first." But the Israelites had planned to retreat and draw them away from the city to the roads. So the Israelites rose from their positions and formed ranks at Baal-Tamar, and the Israelite ambush charged out of its place west of Gibeah. Then 10,000 of Israel's finest troops advanced on Gibeah and attacked it. The battle was fierce, but the Benjamites did not realize that disaster was about to fall on them. The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and the Israelites slaughtered 25,100 Benjamites that day, all armed with swords. Then the Benjamites saw that they were beaten. The Israelites had given way before Benjamin, trusting that the ambush they had set for Gibeah would work. The men in the ambush rushed into Gibeah, spread out, and put the whole city to the sword. The Israelites had arranged with the ambush that they would send up a smoke signal from the city. Then the Israelites advanced in the battle, and the Benjamites began to inflict casualties on the Israelites again, killing about 30 of them. They said, "At last we are defeating them as in the first battle." But when the column of smoke began to rise from the city, the Benjamites looked behind them and saw the whole city going up in smoke. Then the men of Israel turned around, and the Benjamites were terrified because they realized that disaster had come upon them. So they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. But the Israelites pursued them along the roads and cut down their stragglers from every town. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them relentlessly, and overran them from Gibeah on the east toward their resting place. 18,000 Benjamites fell, all of them brave warriors. The survivors turned and fled into the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. 5,000 of them were cut down along the roads, and the Israelites pressed hard after them as far as Gideon and struck down 2,000 more. On that day, 25,000 Benjamite swordsmen fell, all of them brave warriors. But 600 men were able to turn and flee into the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, where they stayed for 4 months. The Israelites went back to Benjamin and put all the towns to the sword, including the animals and everything else they found. All the towns they came across, they also set on fire. The men of Israel had taken an oath at Mizpah. "Not one of us will give his daughter in marriage to a Benjamite." The people went to Bethel and sat there before God until evening, raising their voices and weeping bitterly. "Lord God of Israel," they cried, "why has this happened in Israel? Why should one tribe be missing from Israel today?" Early the next day, the people built an altar and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Israelites asked, "Who among all the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah?" For they had taken a solemn oath that anyone who failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah was to be put to death. Now the Israelites grieved for their fellow Benjamites and said, "Today one tribe is cut off from Israel. How can we provide wives for those who are left? Since we have taken an oath by the Lord not to give them any of our daughters in marriage." Then they asked, "Which one of the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah?" They discovered that no one from Jabesh-Gilead had come to the assembly in the camp. For when they counted the people, not a single one from Jabesh-Gilead was there. So the assembly sent 12,000 of their most valiant men, with orders to go to Jabesh-Gilead and kill with the sword everyone there, including the women and children. "This is what you are to do," they said. "Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin." They found among the people living in Jabesh-Gilead 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp at Shiloh in Canaan. Then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to the Benjamites at the rock of Rimmon. So the Benjamites returned, and the Israelites gave them the women of Jabesh-Gilead who had been spared, but there were not enough for all of them. The people grieved for Benjamin because the Lord had made a gap in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the assembly said, "With the Benjamite women dead, how are we to provide wives for the men who are left? The Benjamite survivors must have heirs, so that a tribe of Israel may not be wiped out. We cannot give them our daughters as wives, because we have taken an oath by the Lord, cursed be anyone who gives a wife to a Benjamite. But look, there is an annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh, to the north of Bethel, east of the highway that goes from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebonah." So they instructed the Benjamites, saying, "Go and lie in wait in the vineyards. When you see the young women of Shiloh come out to join in the dancing, rush out of the vineyards, and each of you seize one of them to be your wife. Then go to the land of Benjamin. When their fathers or brothers come to us to complain, we will say to them, 'Do us the favor of helping them, because we did not get wives for them during the war, and you are not guilty of giving them to them.'" So that is what the Benjamites did. While the young women were dancing, each man caught one and carried her off to be his wife. Then they returned to their inheritance and rebuilt the towns and settled in them. At that time, the Israelites left that place and went home to their tribes and clans, each to his own inheritance. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit.
I knew the road ahead. I trusted strength instead of truth. My steps were fast, my heart was loud. I barely noticed you.
I saw the cracks, I felt the fear when courage slipped away. Yet even then you stayed so near, though I had gone astray.
When all the light was gone from sight, your love was still the same. Still you love me, still you call me by my name, still you hold me when I'm weak and full of shame. Though the world is torn and hearts are torn apart, still you love me, still you guard my heart. In days where everyone chose wrong
and truth was left behind,
your quiet grace kept shining through.
the darkness of our minds. You never left, you never failed, your mercy stood the test. Still you love me, now and always I can rest. Still you love me.
Tonight we read the entire book of Judges together. From brave Deborah and Jael, to Gideon's victory with 300 men, to Samson tearing a lion with bare hands, and Delilah's betrayal. Whenever people forgot God and wandered, God raised up judges to save them. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. We too need the right guide. When we follow God, we won't lose our way. You've done so well today. Rest peacefully now. Sleep well, sweet dreams.